the biggest lie you were ever sold in religion, in your society, in a dysfunctional home, in a dysfunctional relationship or friendship, is that you had to earn your love. That conditional love was how you were supposed to live your life. But conditional love is not love, it's programming. And most people don't even realize that the voice telling them that they're not enough isn't actually them. You know that voice in your head, the one, I'm not good enough, I'm too much, you don't look right, you have to do this to earn love, you have to act like this, why are you acting like that? That voice feels like you in your head. It makes up all these stories as to why you're not enough, as to why you're not loved, as to why you're not XYZ, and that's why you haven't gotten the acceptance and fulfillment that you're looking for. That voice is not you. That is your egoic mind, your false self, the shadow self, the unconscious part of your mind. Different cultures use different terminologies. And that is ultimately the ego, built in from every moment you were taught that love had conditions, that good behavior equaled love, that achievement equaled approval, that being of perfection meant acceptance, that people pleasing and self-abandoning and self-hating meant that you were then loyal and a part of the crew. So this idea then started creating programs in your mind, this voice, so that your mind adapted so that way you could survive. And it created a version of you that could earn love. But here's the truth no one told you, is that you are not meant to earn something you already are. Because conditional love is not love, it's programming. Because unconditional love agape in its truest form, when you take it back to the roots, is unconditional, overflowing, never ending. So if something has terms and conditions as to where you'll be loved and accepted, that's not love. That is manipulation using the word love in results for its programming, for its social conditioning, for its goalpost moving. Religion, they're like, oh, God loves you so much. Just God is love. But he created a hell to send you to if you don't use your free will exactly as we in our denomination and doctrines tell you to use it. That, my friend, is not love. If a God was truly unconditional in love, then your free will, it would be, hey, you want to go to this party? Yes, there's no consequences. No, there's no consequences. Conditional programming masking as love is, hey, do you want to go to that party? But if you say yes, then God's going to be disappointed in you because you're not living by his rules that he made. So he's going to send you to hell because he created an eternal torment for you if you don't do exactly what we say. But you have free will. You have free will. Just know that there are consequences. That, my friend, is not love. Okay? Somebody says, hey, I love you, but you don't act like this, that, the other. And it's not even like something crazy. Like, it's like, oh, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, well, why don't you tell me first? Like, it's kind of controlling. Not love. Oh, hey, you have to do this, and their goalposts moving for acceptance. Not love. And the ego ultimately then starts creating stories in your subconscious, okay? This control house. This is the storehouse of the brain, the subconscious mind, and that is where all your programs live. From the age of 0 to 7, you were being conditioned. You were in a hypnosis state in the mind, and every single thing that you saw, it was just absorbing information. And with that, I said, okay, if I do this, I'll be loved and accepted. If I do this, I'm going to be hated. If I do this, then that's going to happen. And your body, your nervous system is built for survival. It will do everything in its power to keep you alive and keep you safe. So it learned how to keep you alive. And oftentimes, sadly, in our culture, that is through the lens of social conditioning. And that is through the lens of conditional love and performance and self-abandonment and self-rejection and self-hate. Okay? Be less than, be this, be that, and then you can be a part of our crew. Look like this, and then you'll be accepted. Do this, and then you'll be loved. Do this, and then you'll get to heaven. It's all conditioning and programming. But that is all ego-driven. That is certainty. That is the false self. That is not you in your core, in your soul. You are already loved. You are already enough. You are the expression of life itself. And nothing you do or don't do will make you less than. And so truly, when you are going on this soul's journey, when you are going through the soul's journey of death and rebirth and becoming conscious of everything going on inside of you, when you practice meditation or mindfulness and you learn to separate yourself from your mind and from your thoughts and from your feelings, now the soul starts to realize, okay, you're kind of like watching yourself, your false self, okay, the one that you tend to identify with, which is the ego telling you of, oh, well, this isn't why you're loved. You did this and that's why they're mad at you, like this is why you're not enough, because you look like this and you have too big of a nose or this or that. That's why you're not loved. And it's making up all these false stories, trying to get you to identify with them, to agree with them as the program, so it can continue to control you as the soul of the mind and body. But you are called to be in control of this chariot. And as you start to practice meditation and separate yourself from the false self, and you let that false self die, and you stop chasing validation, chasing perfection, chasing a version of you that finally feels enough, now you start to actually realize, hey, I am not those roles that I'm identifying with. I am not those things that I do. I am not XYZ. I just simply am. I am being itself. I am life itself. And when you get to that state, now you're going to start to see the dark and the light inside of you. And I think sometimes people, at least I went on this journey, especially like when you come out of Christianity, they are like, oh yeah, you know, especially like the Quiverful movement and the fundamentalists are like, we just got to have super many kids so we can populate the earth with good and we got to kill out evil. No, yin becomes yang and yang becomes yang. You will always have the polarity and the duality because polarity is how we create. Polarity creates friction. So in the story of Adam and Eve, when she ate from the tree of good and evil, because the dualistic mind will always find a reason of a pro and always find a reason of a con, now you have free will and choice because free will comes out of polarity and duality. Without duality, you don't have free will, okay? And you're going to always have this tension of yin becomes yang and yang becomes yin, of good and evil, the greatest fight that's ever been happening. And now you just have being itself, which is neutral, okay? In Christianese terms, that we call highest good, okay? But with this soul of neutrality, you then are able to start to look at yourself, and you're starting to then be able to look yourself in the mirror, and this would be called the Ouroboros, with the snake eating its tail. And you are able to look into that mirror and see both sides of yourself, see the good and the bad, the ego and the good, you know, the soul, the highest self, whatever terminology you want to use, okay? And you are able to love both of them fully, unconditionally, and accepting. And when you love yourself, now you're able to love your neighbor. That's why Jesus said the greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and then love your neighbor as yourself. Because if you are not loving yourself with your heart, soul, and mind, with every single being, loving that soul aspect of you, then you're going to judge, shame, and criticize people based on the level that you judge, criticize, and shame yourself. The most judgmental people I know are usually the ones that are probably most judgmental to themselves. And I speak from experience. When I was judgmental to people, it's because I was judging myself. The more I stopped shaming myself and judging myself out of false conditional programming that was programmed into me by somebody else, the more now I just have this overflow to love and accept people as they are, because I know every single person is love itself, is life itself. And nothing they do will make them less valuable of a person, whether or not they believe that about themselves. Because the ego survives, this idea of the false self survives by keeping you chasing. When you are chasing validation, when you are chasing approval, when you are chasing acceptance and love and that belonging, you know, that tribe, now you keep moving and that goalpost keeps moving and it never feels enough. You know, you keep chasing that version of you. Okay, once I do this, then I'll be happy. Once I do this, then I'll be enough. Once I have this, then I'll be good enough. You know, once I ask this person to save me from my sins, then I'll be worthy and accepting of love. No, okay? The goalpost keeps moving, doesn't it? Because you have to realize the ego, this false self, does not want you free. It wants to control you. It wants to stay in control, and it wants to keep you performing. Because when you are performing, you are not creating. When you are consuming, when you are chasing, you are not creating. When you are seeking life and love, you are not letting life and love flow out of you, and you are trapped to the system. You are still in a slave mind, and you are a slave to this, okay, to the egoic flesh self. This is your house, and you're called to be a master of your house, not a slave. Okay, but when you are letting your mind, this false self, rule you, you are a slave to your house. You're not the master of it. Which means you're not in control of your chariot, as in Merkaba teachings, which is the Old Testament style writing. As you see with Elijah, he rode on the chariot through the 7 heavens, the 7 charkas, because that is how they taught. They taught in stories. And when the ego, because it doesn't want you free, it does feed you stories. So you have to understand every single story in what we would call the modern day Bible, and all the other stories that didn't get included into the Bible because of Constantine and his whole crew, and then the Council of Nicaea. You have to realize these are stories talking about the soul's journey through consciousness, because that is your journey. You are this soul, Christ, this anointing inside of you, the Son of Man. When you know who you are, that is your identity. Eshra e Yeshra, being itself. You are just life itself, and you are not separate from life, because you and life are one. That they may be one as we are one. But this ego, creates this ignorance inside of you, this devil inside of you, this false self saying, no, 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 who do you think you are? You're not one with God. You're separate from God. Oh no, you're not good enough. You're unworthy. Your sin, any condemnation you're feeling inside of you, that didn't come from Christ. That didn't come from consciousness, of anointing, of awakening, of awareness, because I believe the Bible says there is no condemnation in Christ. So if you're feeling condemnation, it ain't coming from God. It's coming from you. It's coming from that false self of the devil inside of you. Okay? That evil, the shadow version of you. Because the ego doesn't want you free, so it will feed you stories after lies. A thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. It's going to steal your life from you. It's going to destroy your hope, and it's going to continue to lie to you about who you are and your false self. It's going to say, this is who you are, but that's not who you are. That's only who you are. That's who you believe you are. Do you believe that you're unconfident? Do you believe that you're anxious? Do you believe that you're not capable? Do you believe that you're unlovable? Do you believe that you're not enough? Do you believe that you can't have the things that you want and that life isn't meant for you? Why? Why are you believing those things? What false loyalty do you have to this false self, to the world around you, to external deities? I believe the first commandment is have no other gods before me. Why are you putting other people on that pedestal of what they think about you? Why are you putting conditional love and acceptance and approval on that pedestal? Why don't you love and approve and accept yourself? Because when it feeds you stories, subtle, convincing, constant, this brain, this mind, it's a tool. You don't get to always control the thoughts that just come onto your mind because they're coming from subconscious programming. But you do get to control whether or not you take that thought captive to your consciousness, to Christ in you, your hope of glory, and say, no, I'm not going to listen to that. No. Nope, I'm not going to believe that story. This is who I am. I don't negotiate with you. I'm in control of my house. As Paul says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You cannot bypass renewing your mind. And until you start renewing your mind and speaking into it the truth of who you are, of who you want to believe that you are already loved, that you are already accepted, that you are approved of. If I asked you right now to go to a mirror, if I held up a mirror right now and told you to look inside of it and say, I love you, I approve of you, I believe in you, you are enough, I'm so proud of you, I love you, and then insert your name, would you be able to do it? Would you be able to look in the mirror confidently and say, I love you, insert your name? So like me, I would say, I love you, Destiny Finn. You are an amazing woman. I am so proud of you. You are so capable. You did a great job today. Hell yeah. Would you be able to cheer yourself up? Or would you be like, that's uncomfortable as fuck and I don't want to do it? Because most people can't. And that shows you, that is a clear test and sign of where you're at on this scale of self-hate versus self-love, of where you're still rejecting and abandoning yourself because of social conditioning of conditional love and acceptance of performance. Because if you truly loved yourself and you truly were resting in yourself, in the consciousness of just being in life itself, of love itself, that should be not even challenging for you. It should actually be a joy to tell yourself that you love you. But this ego is going to try to brush off. That's so stupid. Why are you doing that? That is so lame. You look retarded right now. Really? You don't love yourself? How dare you not love yourself? And it's going to try to shame you. It's going to shame you for having trouble saying that to yourself because it created all these stories out of social conditioning of why you were unlovable. Because that's what the ego does. The ego tries to rule. The lion, it prowls around. You have to submit it. You have to submit the entire body to Christ. Submit the entire body. Crucify yourself to the cross, okay? The cross is the physical and the spiritual aspect of you, okay? This is all talking about internal transformation. But religion has convinced you and conditioned you to read a spiritual inner transformational book, literally about external transaction system, okay? So you have to kill and crucify the ego, this false self inside of you, because you identify with it. You identify with this false self and identity with all these roles rather than realizing that's not who you are. And you need to actually speak truth. And you need to submit the body to the head of Christ. And you are Christ. Christ in you, your hope of glory. Okay, you are consciousness itself in the flesh. And you are experiencing life. And you are going through these different levels of awakening and enlightenment. You know, the Son of Man comes from like the east to the west, like lightning. Yeah, enlightenment. That's what happens when you meditate. You get out of this logic, carnal mindset. And you actually get home into your body. And now you're able to submit your body. Okay, the mind, the egoic mind. Okay, the man, the husband is the head. Yeah, the mind rules the body. Okay, and then the female, the wife, is the emotional nervous system. And two need to be submitting to each other. Okay, mind and body need to be in submission to have an equal, balanced brain. Okay, the left and the right mind. You don't want to be top heavy or down heavy up. And now this needs to be in submission and you need to be controlling your chariot. So there's different terminology and symbolism throughout the cultures, and I think that's where a lot of people get confused, not going onto a theology talk of a rabbit trail, but that's where people are like, oh, these are all different things. And it's like, no, they're all saying the exact same thing, just in their own language and symbolism they had at the time that the writers were writing it. But you need to be the one crucifying that ego, or else the ego is going to keep you chasing conditional love for the rest of your life. And it's going to keep telling you and making you believe that you're lacking love when you're never without. You are abundance in the flesh. And so you just have a belief system that you have an abundance of lack inside of you, that you have an abundance of lack of love, that you have abundance of a lack of acceptance, that you have abundance of a lack of people approving of you. And the ego will keep feeding you stories. That's why they don't love you. That's why you're not chosen. That's why you need to change. That's why you need to be somebody else, because they're not going to like the real you. Oh no, you're weird. And if you do not question what this egoic brain, this false self is telling you, you build your entire identity around proving it wrong. And so you spend your life trying to prove this false self inside of you wrong. Of no, I am worthy. I am loved. I am proved. And you're just chasing, goalpost moving. But you don't need to become someone else to be loved. You don't need to get another title. You don't need to earn another 6 figures into your paycheck. You don't need to look a different way or act a different way or have more clothes or have this brand or designer to be a part of this identity. You don't. You're already enough as you are. You just need to unlearn the belief that you weren't loved, that you weren't enough, that you weren't approved of. You need to unlearn these stories that you haven't even been questioning inside of you and that have been ruling your life, whether you realize it or not. If you don't like what you're seeing, if you don't like what you're feeling about yourself, you can change that. You have the belief. What false loyalty do you have to this false self inside of you? And what voices are ringing in your head right now? What false loyalty do you have? Is it your mother's voice? Did she tell you that you weren't pretty enough? Is it false loyalty to your dad who told you maybe you were stupid and that you'd never achieve anything? Is it to a toxic partner that constantly undermined you and told you that you would never achieve and that you're not worthy and, oh, this is why nobody likes you and you're not fun because you constantly bring up things and they gaslit you because you're like, hey, that hurt, you calling me crazy. And then they're like, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And they don't take accountability. So now you're trying to prove this false self that took those things that hurt you and have created this monster inside of you, an identity of why you're not loved. Who are you false loyalty trying to prove to right now? Who are you still trying to seek love and validation and approval from? Because conditional love was never a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of what other people were capable of giving to you in their seasons. Because people can only meet you where they are. And that is sometimes a hard thing because even when you are conscious and you're awake and you're like, wow, I want to love you and I want to be there for you, whether it's your mom or your family or your friends or a relationship, people can only meet you where they are consciously and they can only give you what they give to themselves. So if somebody is not loving and accepting of themselves, they will not be loving and accepting of you. If somebody is heavily judgmental and criticizing of themselves, they will be heavily judgmental and criticizing of you. If somebody abandons themselves, they will teach you to abandon yourself how they were taught to abandon themselves because they never questioned the programming that was inside of them. And somewhere along the way, you made their limitation mean something about you. You made their cruel words the truth about what you believed about yourself. And now because you did that and because you accepted that belief in yourself, you need to also release that belief about yourself and put in a new one. Because real love does not ask you to perform. Real love does not ask you to change. Real love does not shame you or criticize you. Real love simply accepts you. And that's one of my biggest problems with the just gaslighting, twisting of words, especially in religious Christian culture of love the sinner, hate the sin. That is psychologically damaging to the brain. Okay? I don't care. I will fight you on this till the day end. But the brain does not hear that as safety. And if the brain does not hear that as safety, the brain will not actually start to change because the body and the nervous system needs to be in safety for it to actually then start to create. Because if it's in survival, it's consuming. If it's in safety and it's in a parasympathetic system, now it will actually start to create. So when somebody says, oh, I love the sinner, but I hate their sin, the brain hears that as, oh, I need to change in order to be accepted. So instead of actually making true emotional, deep subconscious change and becoming a better person in a place of acceptance and love and safety as we're called to be as followers of the way, what the brain then hears is, oh, I just need to hide it a little bit more, and I need to mask a little bit better, and I need to perform more to be conditionally accepted. And that is literally the number one thing Yeshua did not teach. He said, I love you as you are. He hung out with the least of these that society thought was the least of these because he saw them in their full divinity. And he said, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. I love you and accept you exactly as you are. Because when you love and accept somebody as they are, now you give them a belief. Now you put courage into them. You encourage them. And now with that encouragement, you empower them to actually want to change. Now you say, hey, I see you and I love you exactly as you are. And now you challenge them to challenge their own belief systems of, well, why do you love me like that? Like, I've done all these things. I don't care. Wait, what do you mean you don't care? No, I think you're an amazing person. I see the best in you, and I'm going to choose to believe in your highest potential, and I'm going to hold you to that if you want to walk that walk with me. And now you actually start to help people when you love and accept them as they are, rather than saying, yeah, you shouldn't really be doing that. Like, you know, smoking, drinking, like, you probably shouldn't do that. Like, Jesus wouldn't like that. Who are you? I believe Jesus said, judge not, lest ye be judged. Because again, what you judge in others, you're judging in yourself. Because if you have conditional love for others, it's because you have conditional love with yourself. Because true love is unconditional. There are no conditions. There are no terms and conditions to true, authentic love. Because real love does not ask you to perform. It doesn't say, I'll love you when, or I'll love you once. It says, I see you as you are, and I don't require you to change at all. I love you as you are. And with that, now the soul actually begins to awaken, and you start to be that light on a hilltop. And then the light shines, and the darkness in all of them cannot overcome. And now they start questioning. Now they start believing a different story about themselves. Now they actually start having the courage to change. And when the moment you stop outsourcing your worth into the voices that were never yours, you come home to yourself. And the moment you start accepting yourself, then you actually begin to accept other people. And when you find those souls, I know personally on my journey, I know the mentors that completely accepted me when I was in my worst states. And they didn't judge me. And I would look for the judgment. I would look for the shame because I was so used to it by everyone else around me. I would just kind of brace for their judgment, and it never came because they truly loved me unconditionally. And because of that, they gave me the courage to be like, you know what? This is a safe space. And now I can actually open up about this, and now I can actually start working on it. But the people that judge you, you don't want nothing to do with that. You know when somebody just fake loves you, because authenticity cannot be lied about. People know when you're being real and when you're being fake. Just like people know when you're giving them conditional love or actually true unconditional love. Because everything is frequency and energy in our universe, and people can sense the energy. Their subconscious, their soul always knows because they're connected to the source of consciousness. Even if their prefrontal cortex can't register it in the moment, they know when something's off, especially if they're in tune to themselves. The version of you, when you come home to yourself, you come home to the version of you that was never broken, that was never lacking, that was never unworthy, just buried beneath the noise. Because social programming and conditioning, it makes a lot of noise in your head. And that's where meditation comes in. That is why Jesus said, take no thought 5 times, because 5 means to kill off the physical senses. That is why the Buddha said, you need to empty your mind. Christians freak out about, oh, don't do that, you're going to entertain demons. No. What they meant by that is you need to empty your mind by detaching yourself from your thoughts and your emotions. You need to sit there and become indifferent to them and let them pass by. Because now you start quieting the noise in your mind. Now you start harnessing that focus. And now you're able to then start consciously creating new programs in your mind and changing and challenging the old narratives that have been trying to rule your life and lead you and put you in this performance of conditional love and approval. Because the biggest lie you were ever sold is that you needed to prove your worth. That you needed to prove your loyalty or love to some deity outside of you to show how worthy you were of just that grace that was given to you because some guy was brutally murdered on a cross. That's 11th century theology. The first century Christians didn't believe that, and Yeshua didn't teach that. Start questioning, okay? Start actually seeking the wisdom for your life to change it and start looking inward. If you knew thyself, if you knew me, you would know the Father. If you knew me, Now you know up here, now you've taken back the keys from the wicked lawyer, you've opened the subconscious mind, you're seeing what's in there, and you're actually then able to consciously change it. You're actually able to renew your mind because you cannot bypass renewing your mind. And the only way you're going to stop performing for conditional love is by realizing, hey, I've got belief systems and I've got stories in here that are false that are making me act the way that I am. And I don't want to act like this anymore because I don't need to prove my worth. I know who I am. I love who I am. And if people don't want to accept me as I am, then so be it. And that's not an excuse, okay? I'm going to make that clarifying. That's not an excuse for you not to become a better person. Because that's another thing I think people like using is religion to say, oh, well, God forgives me. God accepts me as I am. If you can't take me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. And it becomes this kind of toxicness. And that's not what I'm preaching. I never preach absence of accountability. Okay, you should be taking 100% of accountability of yourself at all times. You know what? Yeah. I am the way I am. I've got some bad choices right now. I've got some bad habits. I'm struggling with depression. Like, take accountability for that and then change it. But what I am saying is unconditional love sees that and they sit with you in the sand. They say, hey, and they restore you. Go and sin no more. Stop being alignment out of who you are. They never shame. Unconditional love doesn't shame. It restores you back to your true nature, which is truly loved, truly enough, and truly worthy. That's what it means to restore somebody. To be saved is to restore yourself, okay? To be renewed, okay? That is what that was talking about in these mystical texts. It was being restored back to your true nature. And your true nature is perfect love, perfect worth, perfect acceptance. It is life itself. It is everything. It is being itself. But this egoic flesh tries to make you miss the mark and say, oh, well, you're not enough. Oh, well, you've done this. Oh, yeah. And it condemns you. It shames you. It tells you why to get you performing because it wants to stay in control. So most of us were taught that we had something to earn, and that belief creates a false identity, one built on performance, fear, and never feeling like enough. You need to break that cycle. And the only way you break that cycle is by realizing the voices and the stories that you're telling yourself and that you're listening to and that you're believing yourself are not you. It's the false self inside of you. It's that ego. Because you are art. You are life itself. You are the artist also of your life, and you are love. You are literally a reflection of love. So embrace your humanity to the fullest. Embrace your divinity to the fullest. And embody that to the fullest extent. And accept and approve of yourself where you are right now today, knowing that nothing you do or don't do today will change your worth, okay? Even if today you are so burnt out and tired and all you need to do is actually take care of your body, drink some water, eat a nice meal, and just sleep, then do it. You're not a failure for not getting and working on that pile of projects that you have to do. And some days your best will be conquering the world, and the next day it'll just be taking care of your body and having a nice hot bath and drinking some fluids and liquids. But love listens to yourself and says, hey, what do I need? It takes accountability for how you're feeling. It never shames or guilt, and then it becomes 1% better every day. You know what? Yeah, that's who I used to be. This is who I'm going to be today. No, I am enough today. And I will be enough tomorrow, and I'll be enough in 10 years. And I will be enough every single moment because my worth is not dependent on my performance.